What is up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a great day. My name is Andrew, and this is the Medellin Buzz. And today is Saturday, February 24th, 2024, and it is 5:01 p.m. here in Medellin, Colombia. It's been a beautiful day today. No rain. It's been sunny. It's been hot, actually, but nothing is hot compared to the coast. I was just over there for Carnival, and it was super hot. But yeah, today's been a great day, so I hope everyone's having a good one, a good weekend. Today's topic, we're going to talk about taxes in Colombia. It's something that it's pretty straightforward, to be honest. There's a lot of rules, a lot of rates, a lot of things to understand. But once you get a good grasp on it, it's pretty easy to hire someone to do it for you. Even though I speak Spanish fluently, I have a couple of accountants that handle my stuff for me. I've got two bookkeepers and one accountant here. My bookkeeper in the U.S. is also my tax accountant there. So it's just a matter of understanding enough to know what you need to be doing, whether you're going to be living here and just being what they call a persona natural, just a person. Whether you're doing business as just as your personal name or doing business as a name, but all income is flowing through your name and through your bank accounts, or you're going to set up an S corporation down here, which is called a SAS, which is the most popular type of corporation. You got to know the basics in order to figure out how you can limit your tax liability, and so that you don't get stuck with a $100,000 tax bill like I did on one of my first years as an entrepreneur here. Just complete idiot. But I didn't know, and it was a hard lesson to learn, but I learned it, and it will never happen again. But I've made those mistakes so that you guys don't have to. It was a hard lesson to learn, but I learned it. So let me make sure that the chat is up here. Where is the chat? Hey, what's up, 69? Way better. Hope you're having a great day today. So I'm going to go through a presentation and then answer any questions as I go through it, or once I'm done, I guess, with it, once everybody understands what I'm talking about. Again, this is for the YouTube video. Hey there, I'm Andrew from the Medellin Buzz, and in today's video, we're going to talk about taxes in Colombia. Whether you are just claiming personal income tax or you're doing business out here, you should know the basics of it and how to navigate through it enough to hire someone to do it for you. It's not too expensive to hire an accountant down here to make things happen for you, so let's get into it. Diego Rodriguez, ¿qué más? ¿Cómo estás? How you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Jaime, what's up, Jaime? Jamie, what's good? Not much, just chilling. Been working a lot. Been going to the gym every single day. I've lost about 4.5 kilos now. I need to lose at least like 1.5 kilos, and I've been regaining my strength. I stopped going to the gym because I broke my hand, and I couldn't even grip a barbell. But now my grip is coming back, as you could see. Like almost full 100%. So I can grip barbells and my strength is coming back. You can see that this arm's a little bit bigger than this arm, but because this arm's, even though I'm right-handed, and my whole life, my right hand and my right foot were always stronger. It feels like ever since I broke it, my left leg and my left leg has always been my jumping leg in basketball, so that makes sense. But my left hand, it's weird. Anyway, yeah, that's what I've been up to. Todo bien, parcero? Yes, today we're going to talk about taxes in Medellin, well, in Colombia as a whole. All right, so let's get into it. I've got a presentation. It took me about 3 hours to put all this together this morning, and it's going to be the basics of taxes here in Colombia. Obviously, I am not a tax accountant. I'm not a tax attorney, so the information that I'm giving you is general information, and the things and situations that I'm going to express to you and relay to you are experiences and also stories and or examples of real life people that have told me what they do in order to limit their tax liability down here. I'm not giving you any legal advice or tax advice. I'm just relaying my experience and the experience of others down here. So if you are going to be claiming taxes down here, or if you are going to be declaring taxes, not claiming, if you are going to be declaring taxes in Colombia, make sure that you consult a professional. All right, so in today's video, we're going to talk about taxes in Colombia. So what does taxes in Colombia mean? Well, first of all, we need to figure out whether you are a tax resident or a non-tax resident. And just because you're a non-tax resident doesn't mean that you don't have to claim taxes or file taxes in Colombia. So what does it mean to be a tax resident in Colombia? So if you are a resident of Colombia, you have to pay taxes on all the money that you make, no matter where you earn it from. Whether it's inside of Colombia or outside of Colombia, you have to declare worldwide income. So if you're Colombian, or let's say you are here and you are a foreigner, but you become a tax resident, you have to declare worldwide income. But if you're a non-resident, you only have to pay taxes on the money that you make within Colombia. So let's say that you're not a tax resident, but you're making money in Colombia, that income that you make here could be taxable. So you have to declare that as income to the government here, and then depending on how much it is, you'll be placed in a bracket, and we're going to go over those tax brackets because there are a few, and then you are taxed on that income depending on that bracket, right? Depending on how much you make. So understanding whether you're a tax resident or a non-resident matters because it affects how much tax you owe and what kind of income gets taxed. So what constitutes a resident in Colombia, or a tax resident in Colombia? To be considered a tax resident in Colombia, you have to be considered a tax resident in Colombia, you have to spend 183 days plus in Colombia in a 365-day period. What that means, it doesn't mean in 1 year, 183 days plus in 1 year, from January to December. No, 365-day period from the day you came in. So let's say you come in September of 2024, that's when your 365 days start. If you stay 183 plus days between September of 2024 and September of 2025, then you are liable to declare taxes on your worldwide income in Colombia. This is just the facts, and this is just the way that the law is written, but I'll go into some examples after this. So I hope everybody understands that if you're here for more than 183 days, you are deemed a tax resident in Colombia, and you are liable to declare taxes. Now, how much you pay, we're going to go over those tax brackets. I made a table that you will not find anywhere else. By the way, if you want all the documentation on this, make sure to join the Medellin Dream Academy. The link is in the description below. I'm going to put it in this module, the spreadsheet, and the Google document where I have all of this written down so that you can study it if you need to. Certain conditions can deem you a tax resident even if you are a Colombian national. So for example, let's say you're Colombian, because I know a lot of Colombians that are living abroad watch my channel and my videos. If you're a Colombian and you're living in another country and you're making your money there, great. But if you are making some money in Colombia, 50% more, if you're making more than 50% of your income in Colombia while living in another country, then you still have to declare taxes here. If you are managing more than 50%, not making, but managing more than 50% of your income in Colombia, let's say you're making money, let's say in the United States, and you're a Colombian national, but you're bringing that money into a Colombian account, more than 50% of it, you're managing that money over here, then you are liable to declare taxes and get taxed on that income. Also, let's say none of that applies, but let's say that you have more than 50% of your net worth, your net assets in Colombia. Let's say you have a ton of apartments in Colombia and it's more than 50% of your net worth, then you are liable to declare taxes in Colombia. Obviously, that's a different type of tax bracket, but just know that if you're Colombian, just because you're in another country, there are some rules that may make you liable to pay taxes in Colombia, or at least declare taxes in Colombia. Okay, so, and that being said, let's say you are Colombian and you say, well, I don't need to pay taxes here because I'm a tax resident of another country, I'm working and living in the United States, the IRS in Colombia, which is called the DIAN, the DIAN can ask you for proof of residency in another country and the proof that you are paying taxes down there. And if you can't provide that, then you could be deemed liable to declare taxes in Colombia. So make sure you have your ducks in a row if you are Colombian and living in another country. Another thing that could apply to pretty much everybody, let's say that you have a spouse that is Colombian or not even Colombian. Let's say that you have a spouse and that spouse spent more than 183 days within a 365-day period in Colombia. That can declare both of you liable to, or that could deem both of you liable to declare taxes in Colombia. Obviously, there are varied situations, so you want to seek professional counsel on that, whether it's an accountant or a tax attorney. I always recommend the guys at Nexo Legal. You could check them out. Make sure you tell them Andrew Macia from the Medellin Masterclass sent you. You might get a discount, actually. I think you might. Yeah, you do get a small discount from nexo.legal. It's not .com. It's nexo.legal on the internet. Check them out. They're really good, and they speak English. So that's what constitutes a tax resident in Colombia. For most expats, the most important part will be the part about living in Colombia or being in Colombia for over 183 days. So once you've passed that threshold in a 365-day period, then you are liable to declare taxes. So what are the types of taxes and the tax rates? So let's go over the most important one, which is personal income taxes. That's the one that's going to affect everybody. Colombian Rican, what's up? Hope you're having a good day. Okay, so let's say that you are that you're living in Colombia and that you are here over 183 days in a 365-day period, and you are a tax resident. Then you're going to have to declare personal income taxes depending on a few criteria. So what is the criteria? So a tax resident is taxed on worldwide income, regardless of where that income comes from. Different types of income, like earnings from work, investments, other sources, are taxed differently. The tax rates for residents go up as their income increases. So the tax bracket goes up as your income increases. There's not one flat tax rate. It increases depending on how much income you make. And I created this table, which you will not find anywhere else on the internet, right here. So this table right here took me a while to create because I couldn't find it anywhere. I found it in Spanish, but they didn't have much info. Can I get rid of Grammarly here? All right, doesn't matter. You guys could see this, I think. Let's see. I might have to zoom out a little bit. Oh, wait. I could put this up. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so these are the tax brackets. And let's go. The easiest way to do this is to look at the US dollars and the tax rate. So if you're making between about $12,000 to $13,000 per year, then you're at the 0% tax rate. If you're making between $13,000 and $21,000, you're at the 19% tax rate. If you're making between $21,000 and about $50,000, you're at the 28% tax rate. If you're making between $50,000 and about $104,000 per year, you're at the 33% income tax rate. If you're making between $104,000 and $228,000 per year, then you are at the 35% tax rate. And if you're making between $230,000 and $372,000, you're at the 37% tax rate. And if you're making more than $371,760 per year, you're at the 39% tax rate plus, right? If you're making more than that, you're at the 39% tax rate. So Rule of thumb for most accountants, they'll tell you when you ask them, well, what's the tax rate here? They'll always say it's between 19 and 39%, depending on how much income you're making. So if you're making $2,000 a month, you're going to be falling in this tax rate, the 28% tax rate, because $2,000 a month for 12 months, you're going to be over about $24,000, right? So you're at 28% tax rate, which is pretty high. I mean, in the United States and California, that's what the tax rate is. So how do they? I'll break this down so that you understand when you see this table, because you will see this table when you Google tax rate, personal income tax rate in Colombia, or if you Google it in Spanish, impuesto para persona natural en Colombia. You're going to find that they talk about this UTV. So before 2006, Colombia used to have the tax brackets depending on the minimum wage, right? So depending on how much more of the minimum wage you were making, they had different brackets for percentage of income tax. And that didn't work for some reason. So in 2006, they changed it over to a unit called Unidad de Valor Tributario, which is the UVT, which is basically taxable income, the TU, or taxable income utility. And so if you're making at zero, which is for the taxable income rate this year, the threshold or the baseline is 47,065,000 Colombian pesos per year. So if you're making 47,065,000 per year, between that and 51,300,850 Colombian pesos, you're at a zero tax rate. And that's what this means. So what you have to do is multiply 47,065,000 Colombian pesos times, this is supposed to be a period, but in Colombia, for some reason, they don't use periods. They use commas instead of periods, and it fucks everything up. At least for me, it fucks me up because I'm used to periods when it's like percentages or decimal points, etc. So this is a decimal point right here. So it's 1.09. So if you multiply 47,065,000 Colombian pesos times 1.09, you get 51,300,850, which in today's rate is $13,072. So that's how I got this rate right here. This U.S. dollars was by multiplying, because this is the only information that I found on the internet right here. There were no Colombian. I don't know why they didn't put like the actual Colombian, or why in these tables of like accounting they don't put the Colombian pesos. There must be a reason, maybe because it changes a lot or whatever. But they just have these multiples here, these decimal points, and I was like, "What the hell is this? Is this in dollars or what?" And then I realized that you have to multiply times the one UVT unit, which is 47,065,000 Colombian pesos. So that made sense. So again, if you're making about $2,000 a month, you are going to be in this 28% tax bracket. If you're making $1,500 a month and you're a tax resident and you're declaring taxes on that $1,500 per month, you're at the 19% tax rate. And so you can gauge it depending on how much money you make per year, what tax bracket you're going to fall into. That's why when I tell people my tax bracket, I pay more taxes than most people will ever pay in their whole lifetime. I've paid in 1 year more taxes than most people will ever pay in their lifetime that are Colombians. And it sucks. But I've learned my lessons on how to limit your tax liability legally. I'm not saying to do it illegally, but there are legal ways to do it. There are loopholes here, just like in the U.S. government. There are loopholes to protect business owners and business income, etc. And you could do it all legally. I'm going to tell you some of those ways, and I'm also going to tell you some of the ways, the more weird ways that some of my friends and people that I have known that are both Colombian and foreigners do their taxes here, which I wouldn't do, but apparently it works for them. So I want to share that with you to show you that the Colombian system is kind of fucked up because they're not very well organized. But once they do, those people might be in huge trouble. So I want to show you that because if, let's say, the DIAN, which is the IRS, catches up and starts auditing people that are doing the stuff that some of these people that I know are doing, then they can face hefty, hefty fines, even jail time. And I've been to prison. I've been to jail in the United States. I've seen the prisons and the jails in Colombia. And the only way you're taking me there is in a body bag, because there's no way I'm going to do anything wrong in order to land me in one of those places. So I do everything by the book and make sure that I can back everything up with information. So that's the tax brackets for personal income tax as best as I can explain them to you. I hope that makes sense to you. So let's go to the next topic, which is local income taxes. In the United States, you have federal and state income taxes. In Colombia, you don't have that. You just have one income tax to the government that you pay. There are no local income taxes. The only local income taxes that you might come across are, for example, like industry and commerce taxes that are taxed by the local municipality that you live in. For example, here in Medellin, we have that. Urban development taxes or property taxes that could be taxed by the city or the department. So those are the only type of local taxes, but there are no personal income taxes that are taxed on a local level. Okay, so we went over personal income taxes, we went over local income taxes, now capital gains. So let's say that you buy a property here and then you sell a property and you keep the money in pesos here. Obviously, you're going to have to declare taxes on that capital gains. Typically, capital gains is about 10%, although that can change based on the type of asset and the individual circumstances. But for baseline, you should be looking at 10% on capital gains. Furthermore, when talking about capital gains, there are no gift exemptions or gift taxes in Colombia. Everything is basically bracketed under capital gains. So if you're gifting something to someone, they are going to have to declare that as capital gain income and could be taxed at 10% depending on their own tax bracket and the asset value and their own personal circumstances, right? So just know that. I didn't know that there was none. So like if you win the lottery, you're hit with the capital gains tax. Michael Sands, is the tax season the same as in the U.S.? January? No, it's different. I'm going to go over the due dates here after I go over these last 2 points about different taxes and tax rates. It is different. Hey, Jules, thank you so much for the $5 dono. What up? So we talked about personal income taxes. We talked about local income taxes. We talked about capital gains taxes. Now let's talk about the dreaded VAT tax. VAT tax is basically similar to the sales tax in the United States. So the VAT tax, which translates to value-added tax, the value-added tax is a standard consumption tax in Colombia. It's imposed on a majority of goods and services. That stands. The standard VAT tax is 19%, covering a broad spectrum of goods and services. Now, there are exceptions to the VAT tax on essential goods like food, basic foods, health services, and health materials, and or educational services and materials as well. But for the most part, if let's say you start a company out here and you're selling a service or a product, you're probably going to have to pay sales tax on that, which usually is transferred over to the customer. Just like in the United States, when you get a bill for something and you see sales tax, in Colombia, when you look at a receipt and you see VAT, you could basically translate it as sales tax, which is usually 19%. I've never seen it a different rate other than 19%. Well, the 19% is the newest rate. So just know that. So if you have an Airbnb business, guess what you're going to have to be charging, or what you will be paying, is the VAT tax. Airbnb itself pays a VAT tax, and you'll see it in the Airbnb bill, and they transfer that cost over to the customer. Okay, so that's the sales tax. Sales tax, or VAT tax, is 19% across the board. There are some exemptions. So now we've talked about 4 different things. We talked about personal income taxes, we talked about local income taxes, we talked about capital gains tax, and now sales tax. Now let's talk about property tax, which is a very straightforward and simple tax. Property tax in Colombia is determined by the property's value and is paid once a year. The tax rate typically is between 0.1% of the property value to 0.6% of the property value, depending on where the property is and the type of property. You'll fall into a category. So it's between 0.1% and 0.6% tax rate for the property taxes for the tax rate on properties in Colombia. So it varies, but it's pretty straightforward. It's not a huge amount. It's a small amount. I've never really even worried too much about property taxes. Now let's talk about Michael Sand's question. Let's talk about the due dates. When do you have to declare taxes in Colombia? So deadlines for filing and paying taxes can differ based on the tax type and the individual circumstances, but personal income taxes, individual, and I'll share my screen here because that way give you a visual here. So number 1, personal income taxes. Individuals typically need to file their income tax returns between August and October of the following year. So for 2024 income taxes, we have to declare and file between August and October of next year. The exact deadline hinges on the last 2 digits of the taxpayer's tax identification number, or NIT, which is like the TIN in the United States. It's essential to consult the yearly schedule published by the DIAN. The DIAN, again, is the IRS of Colombia, so that you know when you have to file and when you have to actually pay. Property taxes, payment deadlines for property taxes vary among municipalities, but usually occur in the first half of the year. Many municipalities offer early payment discounts, which is great if you pay quickly. And again, property tax is usually a small amount, so it's always best just to pay early to get that discount. Other taxes, deadlines for taxes like sales tax or VAT, financial transaction tax, and stock tax are determined by specific regulations and may vary. Companies often face monthly or quarterly filing requirements. And that's companies, which we'll get into here in a second. So now let's talk about, so we talked about income tax as a person. We talked about capital gains tax. We talked about property tax, which is pretty straightforward. And so now let's talk about taxes for a company or a corporation. So the most common type of corporation is a simplified stock company in Colombia, which is, the acronym is SAS, Sociedad por Acciones Simplificada. And if you know anything about corporations in the United States, think of the simplified stock company in Colombia as a glorified S corporation. And I got that definition from my friend Alan Gongora, who is an attorney and has a law firm here that helps a lot of foreigners and locals do taxes and establish businesses down here, etc. I was his client for a long time. He's helped me in multiple things, but he basically describes the SAS as a glorified S corporation. So this is the most common of business structures in Colombia. Unlike other types, it doesn't need a minimum number of shareholders. This is why it's so popular in Colombia, because you don't need a minimum number of shareholders. Share payments can be made within 2 years, so it's not like you have to fund it right then and there. furthermore, you don't need a board of directors. It could just be one person managing everything and being an employee to himself. Or there is no minimum share requirement either. You can establish or change its rules with private documents, so it's pretty flexible and agile. The shareholders are only responsible for the amount of money they invest. So the standard corporate corporate income tax rate in Colombia is 35%. 35% on corporations in Colombia. That's the standard corporate income tax rate. This rate applies to taxable income. Obviously, this is income after taking away all of the expenses, etc. So taxable income. And so you have to figure out what is taxable income in a corporation as well. Again, a tax accountant or a tax attorney can help you out there with your own corporation, because some people will leave money in bank accounts. Some people will contribute to non-taxable investment funds and or retirement funds or education funds. I've done pretty much all of those. I haven't done the education fund because I didn't have a kid, but now that I have a kid, I'm going to be establishing an education fund that is non-taxable, and that I believe that it will be only taxed when you take the money out to use for schooling, which could be deducted as well. So there's a bunch of different things that you could do with that money that you keep in a corporate account here, and how you're going to distribute that. Obviously, if you are distributing dividends to yourself as an individual, then you have to deal excuse me. Then you have to deal with personal income taxes, capital gains, and or dividend type taxes in an individual level. But for corporate tax rate, just know that 35% across the board, which is pretty high, but there are a lot of deductions that you can take, business expenses that you can take, etc. In addition to corporate income tax, there is a local municipality tax known as industry and trade, Industria y Comercio, which is a tax at a municipality level that you have to pay. So residents, individuals are taxed at 0%, 5%, or 10%, depending on the individual amount paid out. This is on dividends. On dividends, residents and individuals are taxed at 0%, 5%, or 10%. I remember I copy-pasted this part because I was wondering about the dividends on a personal level. It depends on the dividend amount. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a scenario on why Airbnbs are so fucking expensive in Colombia. Because the less you charge, the more taxes the less you'll make, basically. So this is a normal scenario in Colombia. Let me put myself over here. So this is a normal Airbnb scenario, and I'm taking this as one of my scenarios when I first started. So let's say that you charge, make this bigger. Let's say that you have an Airbnb property, and you're charging $2,500 per month for that Airbnb property. That's exactly what I do. Airbnb charges you about 20% because remember, they have to charge their fee. On top of that, a sales fee, a transaction fee. There's a bunch of fees, so it comes out to about 20%. It could be as low as like 18%, just depends, but it's about 20%. So right there, you're down $400. So you're actually getting paid by Airbnb $2,100 right away, which I think is fair because you're actually, paying for that service. They're vetting the customer for you. They're doing all the marketing for you. They're putting your property out there. Clients are seeing your reviews. You're able to vet the client by seeing their reviews. It's a great platform. I love it. I don't mind paying that because I've had great experiences with everyone that I've had on Airbnb. So you're making about $2,100. That's what it's coming in. So now, if you have this Airbnb under a corporation, or let's say under an individual level, and remember, let's say depending on your individual level, let's go back to our little table here. Let's say that you're making around let's say that you're making between $2,000 per. Well, you can't be making more. Yeah, let's say you're making more. Let's say you're making $3,000 to $4,000 a month. You're falling under the 28% income tax rate right there. So if that's what you're declaring, then let's go back down. I put this under 35 because I have mine under corporation. So it could be lower. It could be 28%, but still, it's negligible. That those percentages are kind of negligible. So income tax rate at 35% if it's under a corporation. Now you're down $735 on that. Now you've got sales tax. Sales tax is 19%. Now you're down $399. Then you have your cleaning lady that comes once a week. That you're down $130. Maintenance fee for anything that breaks. I've got like air conditioning that always has to be maintained at least once every 3 months. I've got things that can break, normal wear and tear stuff, maybe paint a section of the wall, whatever. Let's say it's $80 that you have to take out from that, let's say per month. Utilities, internet, let's say it's about $200 conservatively. Your net profit on your $2,500 Airbnb is $556. This is why people are charging as much as they can, because in order to run an Airbnb and do it all legal, doing everything by the book and paying every fee and reporting every dime to the DIAN, which is the IRS here, and you want to be a 5-star host and you want to have a cleaning lady come there every Wednesday or every Thursday. You want to maintain it nicely, and you want to have good internet, and people are using the air conditioning 24/7 like in mine. My utilities and internet are actually more than this on some of my Airbnbs, because people just leave the air conditioning on all day because it's hot all day nowadays. So let's say that is the case. Your net profit on your $2,500 Airbnb is $556. So that's what it is there. So I used to run it through a SaaS. I used to run it through a corporation. Obviously, I learned my lesson. I'm like, hell no. So now I run it through So now I run the business of Airbnb. So who owns my Airbnbs? My family trust owns the Airbnb, and then the business itself is run through Delaware S Corporation, and I declare taxes on the money I make through the platform in Colombia, because they're still going to find out. There's miscellaneous also on here. I didn't mention that you have to pay, for example, Cama de Comercio. You've got to pay a few other things to run the business. So what I do is I don't charge. I do dailies now. I do dailies, and when I get a daily, I try to get those people to maybe book 1 day or 2 days on Airbnb, and then I tell them, hey, give me your WhatsApp. And then once they give me your WhatsApp, on the WhatsApp, I tell them, hey, you're going to stay here a whole month, or you're going to stay here 2 weeks. Just book 2 nights or 1 night on Airbnb, and that's the money that gets taxed, because that's what's visible to the government. And then the rest of that time, just bring me cash, hopefully in dollars or euros. If you're coming from Europe, bring me dollars, bring me cash, or you could pull out cash from the ATM here, pay me cash. I'll give you a 20% discount on the rate, because that's what I'm saving there. I'm actually saving a lot more than that, but that's the ideal situation, and that's what I work at. And that's why I say, running an Airbnb business in Colombia, if you want to make your 6%, which is standard across the entire world for real estate and I guess rental market, your 6% yield per year, you can easily do that. And you're doing everything by the book. You're banking on appreciation, but I don't have time to bank on appreciation. I need that business to be a $10,000 business per month. The only way that I could do that is by being a 5-star superhost, and on top of that is by communicating with them and saying, hey, I'll give you the discount if we go off of the platform. It's Airbnb doesn't like it, but it happens all of the time and it's not Airbnb's fault. If that was the only fee that I had to pay, I would love to stay on the platform for months. I'd rent it out for a whole year, pay them their 20%. but that is not the case. So the best way to limit your liability is to make cash and to have paper money, so that you don't have it into a bank account, right? Because once it hits a bank account in Colombia, that's when they find out, because obviously you've got to declare all of that. So when it's cash, that's where it's king. So for me, cash is king. That's the way I run my Airbnbs, and that's why I'm able to make about 20% yield per year, and not the normal 6 to 8% yield that normal rental properties get across the board pretty much everywhere in the world, particularly the United States. I'm more familiar with that. But I know a lot of friends here that this is their model, and they're happy to make their 6% per month because they have 20 of them, right? They have 20 apartments, and on all of them, they're making about 6%. And that's a pretty darn good business for them. Everything's taken care of. They don't have to do a lot of work getting people off of the platform, receiving cash, keeping it in a safe, blah, 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 whatever. It's all pretty straightforward. Bookkeeping is pretty straightforward there as well. My bookkeeping is pretty straightforward as well, but this is why the Airbnb business is so expensive in Colombia. And it's not because Airbnb is expensive because they have to charge for their platform, but it's because doing business in Colombia is pretty hard. That's why you don't see a ton of people flocking to Colombia to start their business, because you get hammered as a business owner here. This is why I remember in 2014, 2013, there was an article that said that Colombia wants to become the next Silicon Valley of South America, but that hasn't been the case since then. Actually, people have come here. For example, Hewlett-Packard built an enormous building out here, but then they left for various reasons. One of the reasons being this model of taxation on businesses that just is not conducive to entrepreneurship. So you have to get creative, right? I'm just glad that my corporations run out of a internal tax haven in the United States. I have a Delaware S corporation, and I run my businesses through there, and I'm able to save some taxes there. I mean, Jeff Bezos just moved to Florida because Florida is a zero corporate income tax state, just like Wyoming, just like I think Wisconsin, Wyoming, Nevada, Delaware. There are a few. Texas, I think, as well. There are a few in the United States where people kind of flock to. Obviously, Florida is the more desirable one, but Florida is a super expensive place to live. So the whole point is that you should know this if you're going to get into the Airbnb business here. You should be aware of the corporate taxation, and you should probably consult with someone before you even start on that. Just be like, okay, this is how we're going to structure it, and this is how we're going to put the cash flow through to make the most amount of money percentage-wise. For the year, it's not too complicated. I mean, these are all standard stuff that you have to pay, but that's what it is. So again, to reiterate, talking about taxes, personal income taxes vary between 19 and 39%. Whoops. So taxes, personal income tax varies between 19% to 39% income tax, depending on how much you make per year. If you want this document, make sure to join the Medellin Dream Academy. The link is in the description below. You'll get this document, as well as I'm going to edit this video and put it as a classroom module so that you can watch it anytime you want, so that you can get the basics of what personal income tax is down here and corporate income tax is down here. And I'm going to give you some scenarios. I'm going to give you some real life, I guess, what some people do here. What some people have done, and these are both locals. I mean, locals do it more than anybody. Statistically, these are the facts. There are 50 million Colombians in Colombia, and that means that there's millions of people that are liable to declare taxes and to pay taxes, right? But out of the 50 million people that live here, only 2 million actually declare taxes. So out of 50 million, only 2 million fall into the bracket of making over, what is it, $13,000. Imagine that. That's fucked up. How many people are actually doing tax evasion in Colombia? I would say 95%, if not more, of the population is doing some sort of tax evasion, because it's hard to believe out of 50 million Colombians that only 2 million people made over $13,000 in the year in order to declare taxes. And that's not to declare taxes. It's the threshold is $12,000 a year. So imagine, out of 50 million people in Colombia, only 2 million of those made over $12,000 in the year in order to declare taxes. Out of those 2 million, only 1 million people actually met the threshold of over $13,000 per year in order to pay either 19% or 39%. That's basically what we learn if you read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, about the wealth distribution in the world. It means that 95% of people work for money, and the 5% actually own all the money, and you work for them. So where do you fall? That's what, when I learned that when I was 24 years old, fresh out of prison, I realized that I don't want to be part of the 95%. I want to be part of the 5%. That's why I don't mind paying taxes and declaring taxes, because I am part of that 5%. Because I work my ass off. I'm doing it right now. I'm making this channel because this is going to be another revenue income, another income stream for me. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of Colombians are avoiding taxes somehow. They're either not declaring, and the IRS in Colombia, the DIAN, is really bad at auditing. Because I've never heard of anybody getting audited. And I own a business here, and I have multiple friends that own businesses here. I do everything by the book because, again, I was stung once. Have you ever heard of that metaphor of the person that was bitten by a snake and is afraid of a piece of rope? I'm that way when it comes to jail and prison. I've been there before. I've been in solitary confinement. I've been in prison. I've been in the county jail. I've done all that when I was younger, and I never want to do it again. I was bitten once, so I'm scared of a piece of rope. If someone tells me, oh, you could save some money by not declaring this money and or this bank account that you have and not showing it to the government, I'm like, no, no, thank you. I'm okay. There are some people that do that, though. So this is why I'm telling you. There are some people that, let's say they are expats, and they live here in Colombia, and they are tax residents. In order to be taxed, you have to make over, like I showed you in this document here. In order to be taxed, in order to declare taxes for 2024, you have to make over about $12,000 right here to declare. Your tax rate's going to be zero if it doesn't go over $13,072. But some people, they will have a Colombian bank account, and let's say they make money in another country, and maybe they declare taxes in that other country. There are some countries that you can become a non-tax resident in your own country. So some people aren't even paying taxes. I know this is true in Canada. I know this is true in Australia. This is not true in the United States. But in those countries, if you're not living there, you can actually petition to become a non-tax resident. So they're making money from their country into a bank account in their country, and they're not declaring there or paying taxes on that income there because they're non-tax residents. Or let's say they're in the United States and maybe they do declare those taxes there. But that income, they are not declaring it in Colombia because it's in a foreign account. And yes, the Colombian government's probably never going to find that, or not at least right now they're not, because like I said, Colombian government hasn't proven to be good about auditing people, especially. I mean, if they're not auditing their own people here, imagine auditing 1.5 million tourists and digital nomads and expats that came here and overstayed their 183 days. Does that make sense? So those people that have those accounts in other countries are not declaring or not showing that. Maybe they will declare here, but only show their bank account in Colombia, which maybe meets the threshold of, oh, they only transferred, $12,000 in the whole year to their Colombian bank account. Great. They declared taxes, zero income tax rate. Some people don't even declare anything. Some people don't even declare taxes at all. And the whole time they've been living here, I know some expats that have been living here for years and haven't even declared anything because they're paying in their own country, but they don't declare here. And there isn't any double taxation, because some people might ask, like, well, what about, if I declare in the United States and I pay in the United States and I declare in Colombia, do I have to pay in Colombia again? No, you get a tax exemption here on the amounts that you pay in your home country. But the point of the matter is that you should be declaring if you meet these thresholds, right? So some people just don't. Some people just have bank accounts in other countries that they don't show the Colombian government. They only show what they have here in Colombia, and what they have here in Colombia is very small. So those are the ways that people are avoiding the taxes in Colombia, which I don't recommend. Again, I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not giving you tax advice. I'm just relaying the stories and information that I've gotten from people that I've known or that I still know that live here, and this is what they do. Because when I was starting, remember, I got here deported and I was broke. I didn't know any of this shit. I had to learn all this, and I learned it by trial and error. I did it so much by the book that I had 1 year where I had to pay over $100,000 in taxes to the Colombian government. To be exact, it was about $120,000 in taxes in 1 year. That was like when I first started and my digital marketing company blew up. And it was a mistake because we were running everything as a Colombian company. Then we realized, okay, we should have a U.S. company running from a tax haven in the United States, like Delaware, Nevada, Texas, Florida, whatever, with zero corporate income tax. So that's the case. It means that I had to learn all this stuff, so I asked all my friends that were living here and making more money than me at the time, and asking them what they were doing to limit their liability on taxes. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, just don't show what you're making. What? Don't show what you're making? I'm not ready to go back to jail. You got to take me in a body bag. So that's the case there. So those are the scenarios that I've been witnessing here and what people do here. Again, you definitely want to consult a professional. I always recommend nexo.legal. If you do have a business here and you need a tax accountant, hit me up. I can hook you up with my personal bank account, my personal bookkeeper, and she has other accountants that can help you. If you need to learn more of this, make sure to go to the Medellin Dream Academy. The link is in the description below. And if you are ready to make the move to Colombia, make sure to go to the MedellinMasterclass.com. That's where me and my business partner, AK, go over 6 hours of 21 modules to teach you not only taxes, but visas, where to live, how to make friends out here, how to get into groups, how to buy real estate, etc. at the MedellinMasterclass.com. The link is also in the description below. You can click on that link, book a call with me so that I can tell you about it more, and you can get started. So that's taxes here, guys. It's not that complicated, but it is complicated. That's like everything in life. Do you tax you on pension? Good question, Mr. Robert Muir. What's up, Robert Muir? Juliano Hurtado, good information. Thanks. Some of the visa application types require you to show a certain level of income, a level that will make you liable to report to taxes. Does migration report the fact of the Dian? I haven't heard. That's a great question, Jeff. No. As far as I know, no, they don't. There's no interdepartment conversations, which is really weird to me, but that is just the fact. It's so weird because that's my thought. That was my thought. In the United States, well, yeah, all departments talk to each other, especially after 9/11. I know because I was a victim of it. I went to local city jail, and all of a sudden immigration called, where that never used to happen prior to the Twin Towers falling. And now everything and all departments talk to each other. In Colombia, that's not really the case. and it always baffles me. But again, we're talking about a developing country where, again, 50 million people live here, and only 1 million of those 50 million actually pay taxes. There's something missing there. Okay, so let me go back to the question from Mr. Muir. Mr. Muir, I did look that up. I'm not an expert again, but I'm going to share my screen here. Oh my God, I almost end screen. My stream crashed two times in a row. I don't think it's going to crash this time. I optimized some of the settings. I think I was going too hard on the settings because I also game. Okay, so screen capture. Okay, so I did look this up. So look, I asked Google, how does pension get taxed in Colombia? There are no special rules for pensioners. The sum of mandatory public or private and voluntary pension income is exempt from income tax unless the aggregate monthly benefits are over 1,000 UVT. 1,000. I think there's a comma here. Is this supposed to be a comma? I opened it here. So there's this document here that I found. So if you Google this question, it'll answer it to you. And then there's an OECD.org PDF that explains it. I think there should be a comma here. That they don't expect to explain it very well here. So the sum of mandatory public or private and voluntary pension income is exempt from income taxes unless the aggregate monthly benefits are over I think this is supposed to be 1% UVT. So 45, what is it? UVT is 47,065,000 Colombian pesos. So 1% of that is close to 51 million. So $13,000. I mean, that's if you're getting pension at over $13,000, then you might be liable to some taxation, according to what I understand from here. I'm not an expert. You should definitely contact the VA's office in Sabaneta. If you want that information, just Google VA office, Sabaneta, Colombia. There's a VA office in Sabaneta, and this Medellin guru. Very great website. He's got information, and I think he's got their contact info in here as well for the VA office there in Sabaneta, and they can answer these questions, obviously, with way more accuracy than I can. But I did anticipate that question coming up because many people have asked it over time. Joshua brings up a good point. For those wondering, FEIE is what you want to talk to your accountant about if you live full-time in Colombia. Jeppy says approximately 48 million people, example, government and bank employees, Colombian citizens who are legally employed within the system earning 12 blah blah less than annually in Colombia. Exactly. That means that people get paid shit here, for one, so they're not even making the threshold of 12 million or now what it's at 13 million, $13,000 per year. And on top of that, the independent people that work independently, because I think a lot of people work independent, that make over the $13,000 a year aren't declaring it all. That's my assumption. Yeah, imagine. And I'm not BSing on that. ¿Cuántos colombianos pagan impuestos? Colombia. Look, I just Googled it, and this is what Infobase is. De acuerdo con el funcionario, el 5% de los colombianos son los que pagan 95% de los impuestos. So according to the fiduciary, or funcionario, I don't know how to translate funcionario, 5% of Colombians are the ones that pay 95% of all taxes. Additionally, 65% of the economy doesn't report their income to authorities like the DIAN. because they are informal contractors or informal workers. So 65% of the economy does not report to the DIAN because they are informal contractors, or like independent contractors or informal workers on the street, or just vendors, people selling and hustling. So yeah, this is not bullshit that I'm making up. This is actually what it is. It's very, very concerning for me. That's why when I see, shit on the street, the homeless taking a dump in my backyard over here, I wonder, where did my money go? And then I realized that, oh, there isn't that much money being paid to the government. First of all, second of all, it's a miracle that Medellin is what it is. Imagine if so little people are paying taxes. How is Medellin what it is? Like, it is a pretty darn clean city. It's pretty well organized. Obviously, it lacks in a lot of stuff, but infrastructure-wise, for example, the roads, like the street signs, the street lights, etc. All that seems to work. Even you'll see people, the city gardeners out there tending to the gardens, the city trash, coming through all of the time. It's a wonder how they are able to do that with being so underfunded. And granted that the taxes that are being paid, how much of that goes to corrupt government, right? Like, how much does that line someone's pockets or people's pockets in the government? That's the other question. So it's a wonder, how does this city and this country function? It's so weird. Yeah. According to that document, it was 65%, Jeff. Yeah, 60%, 65%. So it makes sense. Yeah. What's up? Anush says, "Hey Andrew, I'm looking to visit Colombia, but I have a concern. Are Usme and Gativa safe or dangerous?" What the heck is that? Sorry for the side question. Just curious. I'm related. I'm relatively new to your channel. A few months. Anush, I don't know what Usme means, but I think that you were trying to spell Envigado with Engativa. Envigado is very safe. Yeah. I don't know what Usme, what typo that's, what city or what neighborhood that's supposed to be. Help me out. Oh, those are cities in Bogota. I don't know much about cities in Bogota. I only lived in Bogota 6 months. I know that the best cities or the best neighborhoods in Bogota are up in the north. I lived in Suba and it was relatively safe. But they're like lower middle class area in Suba. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with Bogota. I live in Medellin. I've lived in Medellin for 14 years. I only go to Bogota to visit, and I always just stay in the north where all the parties are and the nightlife and the restaurant and the co-working spots and all that are. Yabba dabba doo, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day. Cyril, some of my numbers were wrong. Let me fix that because I'm going to be sharing this. Thank you for catching that. Some of these numbers are wrong, he said. I should have done this on. Oh no, wait, 20% of 2,500. So let me just double check. So 2,500 times 0.2. This 500. Okay. 500. So now I'm at 2,000. So that screws up this whole thing. So now I got to redo all of these here. You're right. I was off by 100 there. Okay. So $2,000 times 0.35% is 700. Whoops. 700. Yeah, I'm going to be sharing. And obviously you can change these depending on your tax bracket. I'm just doing it as a corporate tax there. VAT on $2,000 times 0.19 is 380. 380. Oh, thank you for catching that. Okay, there we go. That's much better. So net profit I've got to change because it's going to go down. Oh, God. Yeah, it's really, this is the reality of owning this was like my first few months of owning a Airbnb here, was realizing that you don't make shit if you do everything by the book. 130 minus 80 minus 200. So your net profit is 510 roughly, depending on other expenses, etc. Thank you for catching that. All right, so that's updated. That's good. Thank you. Okay. Good thing you could do our air math. Julian says, Suba, there are some upper class too. Yeah, I only stayed in the working class area there the first 6 months that I was there. But it was nice. It was relatively safe. They had, I think, like a shopping center called El Imperio or something like that, which was cool. You had a huge surprise tax bill once? Yes. Good question. Jeff, you're always full of the great questions. Jeff asks, you had a huge surprise tax bill once. How flexible is the Colombian tax authority towards letting you pay off a big tax bill that you clearly do not have enough funds to immediately pay off? They're not very flexible. They'll put you on a payment plan with pretty high interest rate. I never got on it. I learned about it, but I don't remember what it was. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to pay it. And I paid it, and it hurt, but it was good to learn. It was a hard lesson to learn, but I swallowed the pill and got better, got stronger. Yeah, so it's not like, it's pretty inflexible, and interest. They charge you interest on it, on the bill. So it's like you're paying more over time. Yeah, so it's like, so that's what the taxes look like here. Today's my sister. Well, it's not my sister's birthday is not today. I started early today at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock per usual. I start at 6 o'clock, but today I started at 5 because we've got my sister's birthday's coming up, but she's celebrating it tonight. I'm going to go do dinner and some dancing. She likes salsa, so we're going to do salsa dancing, I believe. Yeah. So you guys are talking about Bogota? Yeah, when I go to Bogota, actually, sometimes I stay in La Candelaria. La Candelaria isn't always the safest either, but it's a cool spot. It's in downtown. Yeah, what is huge interest? I don't remember what the interest rate is. I'll ask my accountant, though. I'll update in the Medellin Dream Academy what that interest rate is on those monthly plans. She'll know. But, yeah, I remember that it was pretty high. I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to do this. So next week, guys, on Wednesday, I'm going to do live. My live on Wednesday, it's going to be me on my cell phone. So we're really going to test the Colombian cell phone internet. And I'm going to give you a virtual tour, or like a live, a real life walking tour of Manila, of my neighborhood, while I am live, to see how that works out. Obviously, I'll have my lapel mic hooked up to my iPhone and my iPhone on a gimbal, and I'll be walking through, telling you about the different spots. I'm going to do it around 5 o'clock, like at dusk, because it's really amazing how much the neighborhood has transformed. And for me, it's transformed in a great way. And I would say for most locals that live here, it's been transformed in a great way because of the fact that they have businesses now. Every business that is in Manila, I'm not going to say every business, but the majority of the businesses that you go through there are all Colombian owned. It's people that had a house and then they converted their first floor into a business, like a bookstore, a little cafe or whatever. And then you have people, and it's not only foreigners, it's literally Colombians on the side of the road. It's awesome, sitting on chairs, tables, having drinks, eating food, having so really, the social life is so great. Just everybody talking and meeting each other. It's so awesome. So yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to be not tomorrow. On Wednesday, I'm going to be able to do that. Jacob Morales says, "Hey Andrew, who's your favorite salsa singer?" Ooh, I love Hector Lavoe. I mean, uh, Hector Lavoe, Joy Arroyo. Um, I also like Ruben Blades. Obviously, what's his name? Um, what's his name? Fuck, the big artist from Puerto Rico. Uh, uh, Tu amor me hace bien. What's his name? Oh, Mark Anthony. Duh. Yeah, Mark Anthony. Colombian, obviously, Joe Arroyo is awesome. I love Oscar de Leon. Some of his songs are awesome. There's one song that I had on rotation that was called Corazón de Acero, and that's by this guy named Gillo. Gillo, Gillo Sarante, Corazón de Acero. That's such a great song. I literally play that song whenever I have like when I'm. My girlfriend doesn't know how to dance salsa. She knows the basic steps, so we practice. That's like one of the songs that I love to play. Yeah, I've seen Mark Anthony in concert like 3 times. JD, those aren't salsa. Salsa. Yeah, Mark Anthony. El Grupo Nietzsche. Yeah, Grupo Nietzsche is fire for sure. Yeah, they have so many good. I mean, I love a lot of the salsa, like salsa brava. I like salsa brava. I also like Cuban son, which is softer. It's easier to dance a Cuban son than like salsa brava, where you have to dance like a caleño or casino type dancing with a lot of turns and stuff. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, guys, I hope that you found this information helpful. I will be live again on Wednesday, and it's going to be a live tour of Barrio Manila. We're going to see how that works. I'm pretty sure it's going to work. I've seen other YouTubers do it where they're live on their cell phone's data, and they're going through a neighborhood, or they're at a live location. So I'm going to be doing that more and more often, because just me and my studio gets boring, not only for you but also for me. So I want to try that. I will see you guys next Wednesday at around 5 o'clock again, because I want there to be sun for the like it to be dusk for the next live while I do it live outside. So hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you